Hey guys, it's Kevin here. I thought I'd show you guys the basics of Street Fighter 6, how to play Street Fighter 6, how the game mechanics work, and how to get started on playing the game. On top of that, I will also be going through a tutorial on how to play as Ryu. Long story short, I am preparing for my first ever in-person tournament. I will be participating in Summer Jam 2023 in New Jersey. I recently have been practicing very hard, preparing a lot. I have some close friends who are very awesome at fighting games, and they've been helping me prepare for the tournament by putting me in some online locals and so on and so forth. With that being said, let's get started. This is the color I usually use for Ryu. Usually your opponent shouldn't matter, but I will go for Jamie. Now keep in mind, I will only be going over how to play the game using classic controls. For modern controls, I will probably do that in a later video. Give me a sec while I change something here. Standing, good. There we go. Alright, let's get started by playing the game. To get started, you need to know how Street Fighter works. In Street Fighter, you have light, medium, and heavy attacks. You have light punch, light kick, medium punch, medium kick, heavy punch, and heavy kick. Depending on the character, you could hold a direction, you could press any direction and a button at the same time and it will do a different move. For example, this is a medium punch, and this is a forward medium punch. It's popularly known as the collarbone breaker for Ryu. He also has a fairly new move called back heavy punch. Now that you know how the buttons work, it's time to talk about special moves. Special moves are basically a combination of motion and buttons to bring out a flashy move. For Ryu, he has Hadouken, which is quarter circle forward and punch. Every special move has a light, medium, and heavy variation. This is a light Hadouken. This is a medium Hadouken. And this is a heavy Hadouken. There are many other motions that you have to get used to. The most common ones are quarter circle forward, quarter circle back, and the Z motion. Let's briefly go over the Z motion. There are three ways of doing the Z motion. One is pressing forward, rolling down, and then rolling back up. So it goes like this. Another way of doing it is forward and then quarter circle forward. For my Shoto players out there, it's also known as forward Hadouken. So you tap forward and then you do Hadouken. The third and final way to do a Hadouken is the crouching Hadouken. Simply, you just tap down, forward, and then press punch. Whoops. Hold up. There we go. That one's a little tough to do. What I recommend doing is the forward Hadouken version. I believe it's also called the Vesper version of Z-Motion. Sometimes I alternate between the Vesper and the regular roll down, and then roll back up. Sometimes I alternate. Now that we spoke about special moves, let's go over some combos. Combos are a series of buttons you press that chain together. That can chain together and become a true combo. This is an example of a combo. If you look on the left-hand side of the screen, you see the indicator of how many hits I threw out, or how many hits I've landed. As long as that indicator is there, your opponent cannot get out of the combo. See? However, if I wait a bit, your opponent has enough time to block or do something else. So make sure you have proper timing. The chain light punches aren't a very good example of what a combo should be. Usually a combo combines normal attacks into a special move. See? There are also heavier combos that you could do. Here's an example of Ryu doing some combos. You can start by jumping in with using aerial attacks. Also forgot to mention there are aerial attacks as well. The properties of each aerial attack that you do, based on the light, medium, or heavy variation, depends on which character you are using. So pay close attention to which character does what in the air. Like I was saying, a pretty good combo you could start is by jumping in, aerial medium kick into crouching medium kick into Hadouken. This is known as a very nostalgic and classic combo, as this combo has been used since Street Fighter II. You can also cross up with it if you're close enough to your opponent and you jump up and forward. Pretty cool, right? Now, there are ways to extend some combos. Some of that is dependent on whether or not you've countered your opponent or punish countered your opponent. I'll give an example right now. If you hit your opponent as they throw out an attack, you'll get a counter hit. This causes extra stun on your opponent, giving you more time to think of ways to extend your combo or confirm into a longer combo. So, for example, this is a true combo. However, this is not. If I counter my opponent, I'll have more hits done. Hopefully, I'll have enough time to do the crouching medium kick. I do, because I countered my opponent. Pretty cool, right? I mentioned punish counter. Punish counter is another type of counter that you do. A punish counter only occurs when your opponent has finished throwing out a move and you hit them during their end animation. This means that if I throw out a light punch, for example, and the light punch has already extended its hitbox, and I'm trying to return my punch to my character's body, if Jamie hits me or interrupts me during my end lag, I will get punish countered. Punish counters are very strong depending on which move you open up with to punish counter. One of Ryu's strongest moves to use when you punish counter someone is his standing heavy kick. Standing heavy kick crumbles. You could do many stuff. That is a lot of damage. I feel like there's more things we could do to extend our combos. If you look at the bottom corners of your screen, you'll see that there's a meter. That meter is basically your super meter. Every character has their own super. There are level 1 supers, which take up one bar, level 2 supers, which take up 2 bars, and level 3 supers, which take up all 3 bars. Ryu's level 1 super is Shinku Hadouken. His level 2 is a powered up version of Hashigeki. You can charge his level 2, by the way. This makes for decent combos. Okay. Now, with that being said, why don't we do a combo that includes one of our supers? Keep this in mind. Level 1 supers can only be cancelled into when you do after a normal move. The same goes for level 2 and level 3. Level 2 adds an extra property where EX moves can be cancelled into level 2. By the way, an EX move is when you press either two punch buttons or 2 kick buttons at the same time while doing a special move. See? That's an EX move. Therefore, EX moves can be cancelled into a level 2. Level 3s can be cancelled from a normal attack, an EX move. Actually, can it? Yes, it can. An EX move, and finally, a regular special move. This is Ryu's level 3, by the way. That said, let's try doing a combo with some supers. Here's one you could do. Oops. There we go. Can also do this. And of course level 3, since it could be canceled into a super, we could try a special move. That's a lot of damage. If you notice, there's another meter that's right below your health bar. That's your drive gauge. We haven't even used our drive gauge yet, and we're already doing so much damage. A drive gauge is used up when you use the following moves. Parry. Parry should be your, medium punch and medium kick at the same time. If you hold it, you see that your drive gauge starts draining. You could parry any move as long as you're in this state. The only weakness would be getting grabbed, which counts as a punish counter. Pretty cool, right? If you time it well, if you time your parry with your opponent's attack, you will slow down time and get a perfect parry. This allows you to get a punish counter. However, damage is scaled a lot. So be careful using your meter, because you won't do that much damage after a perfect parry. Now, there's another thing for drive gauge. EX moves use drive gauge now. Before, they used up your super meter. Now, with the drive gauge, EX moves use up drive gauge. But here's the thing. What happens if you use up all of your drive gauge? You're now drained. You can't use any EX moves, and you can't, and when you block, you take chip damage. Usually, when someone blocks and they're not burnt out, only their drive gauge gets chipped. But if your drive gauge is depleted and you're in burnout mode, your health will basically be chipped. So be careful with that. That said, there is one more thing that drive gauge has. And that, well, actually two more things, I'm sorry. The first thing is drive rush. Drive rush can be done by pressing either parry and double tapping forward to dash. You can follow up with attacks. Your drive rush attacks do more hit stun than your regular normal attacks. So keep that in mind. You could pull off some really nice combos. For example, remember the collarbone breaker? This can't really cancel into much. At least not on its own. What would be ideal is for me to cancel the overhead into a crouching medium punch. But guess what? I can do that with drive rush. Let's try that. Pretty cool, right? Oop, a little too slow. There we go. There's another variation of drive rush. That happens after you cancel a normal into a dash. So if I press So if I press a button to attack, and then I dash immediately as the punch is coming out, I could drive rush. But keep in mind, this consumes a lot of your drive gauge, so use it sparingly. Especially if your opponent is low on health and you get a confirm. Was that it? I believe that was it. Yes, now moving on to the final thing that drive gauge is good for, and that is my worst habit ever, drive impact. Drive impact has a lot of properties. If you get hit, you get knocked flying. If you get knocked flying and you hit a wall, you get a wall splat. If you block it, if you attempt to block here, you'll block it, but you'll take considerable amount of chip. Just a considerable amount. If you block it and you're against a wall, doesn't matter, you'll still get wall splat. You could follow up with combos here. See? Sometimes we could get a little crazy with this one. Whew. Something like that. I still gotta work on it, you know? Anyway, moving on. Right here. Let's say you get punish countered. Usually what happens is if you get punish countered, you get stunned. Usually the punish counter drive impacts happen when someone reacts to a drive impact with their own drive impact. Ooh. Pretty interesting, right? So you could follow up with a lot of things. Just like that. To give some tips on probably how to win some matches, we want to focus on our neutral game. Despite this game being probably aggression oriented, with the game trying to almost force us to be aggressive, you still want to work on your neutral game. To work on your neutral game, make sure you keep your distance and work on your pokes. Think about which character you're using. What are their best poke moves? A poke move is an attack you can use to probably poke at your opponent, get some damage in, but you're still safe from getting attacked. Here, shouldn't have been too close. I'm a little too far away, right? A little too far away. But for a light kick, I should hit it there. Again, I'm too far here, and I'm too far here. Luckily, Ryu has a medium kick. It just extends. Now here, it's hard to reach with a crouching medium kick, but with a standing medium kick, I could probably reach. Ah, almost. Hold up a sec. We're like right here. There we go. Now, if you work on your neutral game, you try to play footsies, you know, get your distance right, I think you'll be fine. It's also good to find ways to predict your opponent's next move, such as if you knock them down or something, their first move getting up might be a Dragon Punch, which is basically an anti-air move, right? Which leaves people very vulnerable. So be aware of that. Of course, my advice seems brief, but that's all I know with the knowledge I have in fighting games for now. Now, on to the next thing, which we're going to be focusing more on Ryu. So if you got what you wanted in terms of learning the basics of Street Fighter 6, you could get off now. However, if you're looking to learn a character like Ryu, then you should probably stick around. I've already shown you what Ryu can do, but how do I apply that to combos and his game plan? For the most part, Ryu's game plan is a mix of staying distant, but not too far away, if that makes sense. He has a Hadouken, a projectile, but you should use it sparingly because your opponent can easily jump over that, and if you're not careful, they could time or predict when you're going to throw the Hadouken next, and that becomes a punish counter for you, so be very careful. You want to keep your distance, but you don't want to be too far, like right here. There's not much you could do right here. You'd want to be at a distance, but just not too far. If you're a little closer, work on his standing medium kicks. And if you're a little closer than that, you can work on his standing heavy kicks. That allows you to confirm into drive rush conversions. See? That said, let's work on some combos. You've already seen the combos that I've done earlier without Drive Rush. Let's add Drive Rush in the mix. Why don't we? Ooh! Almost forgot. Silly me. Sorry about this, I completely forgot. Level 3s, if your health is low and it's in the yellow, if you do your level 3, it becomes a critical art. It's basically a more dramatic version of your level 3 super, and it does much more damage. Sorry about that, forgot about that. Other than that, you don't really get a buff. Now if you're learning Ryu, this will be your best friend. If you press down twice and then a punch button, you will get this like electric charge. This has to do with your projectiles, your Hadouken if you would. Your Hadouken now does more hits and more damage, and it's a lot faster when you use the EX version. So if I use EX regular Hadouken right here, that's how fast it goes. But if I charge it, it goes a lot faster. You can also use it for Hashogeki. So this is normal Hashogeki. It's light, medium, heavy. However, no matter which variation you use, whether it's light, medium, or heavy, if you have a charged and use Hashogeki, it will do 2 solid hits and suspend your opponent in the air for a brief amount of time. This gives you a chance to follow up with a drive rush attack into probably any special move. Whoops. Pretty nice. Quick tip for drive rushing. I know you have to hold down. You have to press parry and then double tap forward. There's actually one other thing you could do for drive rush. Instead of just using this and tapping forward, well, first of all, if I do that, it becomes a little too obvious because all your opponent has to do is look for the blue glow, and they know that you might drive rush. So how do I hide that a little more? Well, give credit to Maximilian Dude on YouTube because he found this tech for drive rush. Basically, instead of parrying and then double tapping forward, you just tap forward and then press parry and forward at the same time. See how seamless that was? You only saw the blue glow just for a split second versus this. So instead of this, you get this. It's just a slight blue glow, but it's really hard to tell. And considering you're going through like live matches, I don't think people are going to pay attention to that unless they mess up, right? They mess up the tech. This tech is called Max Rush, colloquially by some fans of Max, including myself. Alright, let's do some more combos. Here's one combo you could do. This carries on the corner a little bit. You could do, if you land a solar plexus punch, you it's around the same route. You basically get where I'm going here in terms of combo routes. If you have it charged, if you want to add in super, oops. Whoops, almost did it. Nice. You could try this as well, I guess. Oops. Now that EX Tatsu only works in the corner. Like you can only follow up after that only in the corner. Because if you do it right here, you can't really get anywhere. But if you do it in the corner, you could follow up here. Hey, come on. There we go. Let's add some punish counters to the mix. Here we go. Let's start with a standing heavy kick. Let's say you just blocked a DP. If you're not in the corner, instead of EX Tatsu, you could do EX Donkey Kick, and then follow up with another Donkey Kick after the wall bounce. Oops. Does a little less damage, but it's a lot. Everything else is self-explanatory, you know. If you land a hit and you could drive rush from it, just drive rush. But like I said, use your drive gauge pretty sparingly. So basically, if you do a punish counter, you don't necessarily have to drive gauge, especially on a punish counter for this. So you could just does more hits, more damage, right? This does a little more. If you have a charge, oops. Uses a little less, right? So he does more than enough damage than you really need it to, right? And that's all I got for Ryu. If you're just starting out with the game, I hope this video helps you out in any way, basically of how to get started, how the game works, what mechanics there are, any other new features in this new Street Fighter game. And if you are thinking of playing Ryu, I hope that this video was entertaining and it helped you out just a little bit. I hope it was very educational. I hope you learned something new about Ryu. Ryu is definitely a force to be reckoned with in this game. However, compared to other characters, he's not too special. But don't worry, it's just like that in most of the other Street Fighter games that he's in, and other crossover games he's in. Ryu, generally speaking, is almost always going to be mid-tier, but if you love Shotos, but you want to do a little better than what Ryu has to offer, maybe pick up Ken in this game. I'll go over Ken probably in a future video, but for now, I'll stick with Ryu, especially since I have a tournament coming up pretty soon. Anyways, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Kevin. I'm signing off. See ya.